the ability to integrate those two together and not have to rely on a FedEx or a UPS, the money savings that it has brought the company has just been tremendous. And again, having our salespeople sell right up until the last moment is another huge benefit for us there.
That's great. Jennifer?
Yeah, and what I will say kind of goes back to your making C-level management buy-in. It's so much easier to maintain Salesforce than a lot of other programs for a number of reasons. With the acquisition, they came to me and they said, oh, well, how long does it take IT to fix such and such? Who does the code for this? And I'm like, well, no, it's just, I do it. You know, it's not that hard. It only, give me a few minutes and we'll figure it out. Or they'll say, I need the numbers for 2011, blah, blah, blah. And instead of going to IT and getting them to write a report or something, just give me a few seconds in Salesforce and I can pull it out for you. But additionally, so you're paying for the license by user per month, but not having to pay for all of the updates and everything is extremely helpful. And then the Appexchange, the number of free apps that you can get is huge. I go in there like every week or two and just look at what all is new. And there's always incredible stuff in there that can solve so many things for you. But we've been able to link a lot of our different departments. So they were speaking about approvals, and we can have our sales reps send an approval all the way up to our product management team or our engineering team and get an answer within seconds, and it's so much more reliable. Instead of this email sent, I don't know if you saw it, you know, we can see the times and everything just right there in Salesforce, and it'll keep sending them a bunch of email updates that we make do, so it's more in their face. And then we can also give updates to our engineering and installation teams about, you know, this is what's coming down the pipe this month, get prepared, what does the schedule look like, stuff like that. So on our commercial side, it's really brought kind of everybody together, and it's the direction of where we're going is so much more clear for the month or the quarter.
That's great. That's great. And then I want you guys to be honest, you know, for the sake of the audience. If there were anything you could do differently, if you had to look back over the time, you know, that you spent with Salesforce, that you spent kind of coming up with these strategies and expanding your deployment over time, what would you do differently, if anything? I'll start with Dan.
I get that again. I would implement faster. It's get some feedback from because there is so much feedback in the tool itself. Waiting until you have the perfect solution to roll out just reminds you that you weren't perfect to begin with, and you might should have listened to somebody to start with. Focus groups are similar. They are focused, but don't always apply to the general populace. So getting something simple out, getting feedback on it, and improving has been a huge win for us. We rolled out a pretty complex pricing model that was dictated by our senior team, that they wanted this level of control, they wanted this level of price validation, and make sure that the marketplace was going to be secure and eliminate revenue erosion and all these things that sounded great and looked good in the boardroom. And what we found out was we were having troubles getting contracts out. If we'd gone out with a much simpler pricing model, we would have been able to evolve that into something that really worked. We had probably 3 or 4 missteps that way, where we probably spent an extra 2 to 4 weeks of development time, Apex developer time, which is not a cheap thing, and only to scrap it and come in with something a little simpler later. So I'd recommend that you go ahead and try to decide what's your company's biggest issue, and not try to solve all of this. Just put something out there that's going to address it, and then change it as it goes forward. Jennifer is absolutely correct. Once you have a structure in place, it's easy to modify it so that it makes sense at that time. And being able to understand that and use it is going to require some assistance from your users to put the data in so you can get the reports out, and to have the approvals route through the different systems. Our people departments, you're going to have to get those people on board as well. So putting a very elaborate workflow for approvals is probably not the thing you want to release immediately. Get something out there that mirrors what they're doing by mouth, and then expand on it.
Okay, Brian?
go back some of the things that I would have done earlier, using Appexchange more. She mentioned Appexchange a moment ago. I can't speak enough about how much power is there. Many times you get a request, and maybe you can build something custom for them in about 2 or 3 days if you use an implementation provider and if the stars align right. Maybe you can do it 2 or 3 days. But probably there's something on Appexchange that already exists that solves that exact same problem, and many times will do it better than what you would have thought to do it, because that's what they do. Another thing is to use governance boards. He mentioned in getting the users involved, having a select group of users that know the business, that are representative across the business as well. Not only will that help you make sure that you get adoption of your product, but it will also help to avoid, in many cases, all of those 1,000 little one-off fields here or there that this group wants and maybe that group doesn't need. Probably, many times you can just reuse the same field across the board. You don't have to create 1,000 different fields. That makes your reporting so much better. Going back again, I would probably lock down a little bit on report creation, because you end up with 7,000 reports that people just create that are one-off, and they're put in the central unfiled report folder, and then people have trouble finding the data that they need when they need it, and that's the whole purpose of Salesforce anyway. Would identify a plan to take advantage of Premier Support. It's a tremendous resource. Just have to figure out how to use it, how to make it fit within your business. And then finally, I think he alluded to it a moment ago, instead of trying to fix everything each month, pick 1 or 2 things, focus on those 1 or 2 things, fix them right, give the business something that works, and then come back, pick up the next piece, and carry it forward.
Yeah. Just going through a relaunch, I kind of did this homework already, but just make sure that you are looking at the right people, the right users. One of our biggest issues was that we just had the managers say, okay, what all do you want them to put into Salesforce? And that's what we made the users tell us every time they're putting an order in. So there were just a lot of fields we didn't need that most of the time the managers weren't actually looking at. They just thought it would be nice to see that. So just go and get 1, 2, 3 key things that they want to see. I mean, they're really only worried about the revenue and if it's closing or not. So yeah, just keep what the management needs kind of minimal, and then go to your users and really see where they're going to use it, and the way they're using it, and kind of how they interpret what the fields are, versus what your management team tells you is